Hi and welcome to The Winning Factor. I'm Alan Aitken, and on this show each week we take a look at some upcoming races in Hong Kong and try to find an angle to the race that might lead us to finding the winner. Well, a big racing on Sunday with our superstar sprinter back in action, Ka Ying Rising. That's not one of the races that I'm going to look at for this preview, however. The first I'm going to go to is race 8, where our winning factor is the backup. Now, this is a Class 3, 1200 metres, and there will be some cases made for the likes of Captain Win, maybe even Great State or a more War Eagle, an interesting stable change down in the weights. But most eyes will be on the promising packing Hermod, unbeaten in 2 starts last season, and I think this race revolves around what we get from him and his major rival, Super Infinity. Now, Zac Purton has been the jockey aboard packing Hermod in both of his winning starts last season as a 3-year-old. He looked highly promising then, and this was the most recent of them. This is race 829 last season, gate 8, packing Hermod in blue and white hoops with fawn sleeves and cap. And he isn't that fast out of the gates actually, but Purton rides him hard to get forward. He does some work in a fast first section to get up to second before he is able to get a rest when the pace comes out of it mid-race. But what was really impressive here is, despite that early effort, packing Hermod is able to sprint again when Purton sends him in the straight and easily beats some handy horses behind him. Well, that's a horse that looked highly impressive. The handicapper thought so too and pushed him right up in the handicaps for that win. Now he returns after a 3-month break, now a 4-year-old. We expect he's going to be stronger, and connections have their eyes firmly on a race like the Classic Mile in January. The other horse I'm highlighting here, Super Infinity, well, that name might sound familiar to you because we tipped him last week. And this is what happened to him as favourite. Race 94, he's in gate 5 with purple and pink and messed the start up completely. So did the eventual winner there in the red, white and blue colours, Savvy Brilliant. They both surrendered a lot of ground cheaply when there was no early pressure, and that's a big negative. But Savvy Brilliant recovers better, and he spends most of the race 3 or 4 lengths ahead of Super Infinity. The leaders did go very fast mid-race. That helped the back runners get into it, with Savvy Brilliant going on to win. But Super Infinity made good ground, taking a couple of lengths off the winner in some strong late sectionals. So, disappointing if you backed him, but a very good performance all the same from Super Infinity. And now he returns to the races 7 days later, and that's where I want to highlight something. There's an assumed fitness edge for horses returning to racing quickly, and you see on this graphic the figures for our top 10 trainers of running a horse back 10 days or less after their last performance. And Super Infinity's trainer, Mark Newnham, well, he's relatively new to Hong Kong, but is already returning some impressive figures at this. A very high strike rate, as you see here, and also clearly ahead of market expectations when he brings a horse back to the races quickly. On the map, well, I'm certainly hoping that Super Infinity doesn't mess up the start like last week, but the regular leader I give more than likely gets to the front, and I think Purton is just as likely to be looking to follow him across with packing Hermod from a slightly awkward draw in gate 12, provided he begins more cleanly this time. Young superstar, he's got some speed in gate 5 too, but it doesn't look too taxing a pace. I'm thinking average tempo. I'll be certainly hoping, as I said, Super Infinity doesn't fluff his lines at the jump and is a lot closer behind the leaders this time than he was last week. But for me, the tip in race 8, Super Infinity. His winning factor, the backup. Now, there will be high expectations here on packing Hermod. He's certainly right in the fight and hard to beat, but he does come back off a layoff. He's got a bigger weight now and a little bit of an awkward draw in 12. So a few things against him. While Super Infinity, well, he's super race fit after running last week, and Mark Newnham has shown that he has a good eye for when to return these horses quickly to the races. The other race I want to take a look at is race 10, and our winning factor here, the map. So this is a Class 3, 1400 metres, and Zac Purton's last start winner, Prestige Always, will have plenty of fans, as will the horse who should have beaten him that day, Not Usual Star, King Miles had excuses in that same race, and I think Oriental Smoke will be an improver here. But essentially for me, the race revolves around Casper Founds trained Sky Trust. Now, Sky Trust has only won 2 of his 9 starts, but has run well every start. And his most recent effort was first up for this season when he won over the Sha Tin 1400 metres. Here he is in gate 9, yellow and green colours, and he isn't the best away for Hugh Bowman, but recovers quickly to be into the first 3 after a few hundred metres in a race where the early pace was genuine enough, but the leaders do take a good breather around the turn from the 800 metres, then kick again in the home stretch. And it's all copybook stuff from Bowman. Sky Trust never looks in danger and wins comfortably. Now, that was an excellent win returning in Class 4. He's now up in grade, but a winner up in class is something we look for. And on the map, I think his rider this week, Luke Ferraris, is going to get some sort of replay of that setup. There isn't a lot of speed in the race. Expect Zach Purton to be positive again on Prestige Always, as he was in winning first up from the same barrier. But I expect Beauty Glory is probably a more likely front runner from barrier 5. With a positive approach, Ferraris should find himself right on the speed again, this time down in the handicaps and once more ready to pounce on the leaders when they turn into the straight. And that's where we're going to take a little detour to look at the importance of position in running and the advantages of being on the pace. So here you can see in a general sense on this graphic, these figures for the last 5 years give an indication of how a horse's chance improves if he can take a forward position. Now, on this, I've only looked at longer priced horses and their performance when they don't lead compared to when they do. As you can see, their chance of winning improves dramatically, and this is not only true of outsiders, but any horse in any race. Now, having seen that, you're now better prepared for the figures on this graphic when we look at the top 10 riders on leaders over the past 5 years. Now, some of them are a little flattered by having been apprentices with claims, and trainers do send apprentices forward as a matter of course to make the ride less complicated. But you see that all jockeys as a collective, down the bottom, the figures there, exceed the expected wins by more than 300 when they lead. Too bad we can't bet when we know who is in front. But that's why we do maps and why we study the habits and preferences of jockeys who default to positive, like Purton and Hewitson. And Luke Ferraris is another who prefers to be going forward near the lead in his races. He won a double midweek at Happy Valley on leaders, and I'm confident that we have the right man in the right place for Sky Trust. So my tip in race 10, Sky Trust, his winning factor, the map. Yes, he's a horse of a little bit of promise and he's a winner up in grade, things that we look for. But I think both he and his rider have the tactical ability to get the right position in running in the right race and get the right result. Well, that's it from the winning factor this week. Good luck on Sunday. We'll see you next time.